Gone are the days where we had linear volume controls which actually turned a variable resistor or a pot to turn the volume up and down. And they had ones that had motors that would turn them up and down and so forth, but now everything's gone to digital attenuation. So basically it's an encoder switch that sends pulses that, depending on what way you turn it, they go up or they go down and they go bad, and they're on all the receivers. Let's check this one out. I've got a Yamaha RXV1700. The complaint on this is that the encoder for the volume is not working correctly. So let's just check it out. And that's the only thing this was brought in for, was that the volume doesn't work. As you can see, when I turn it, it's not doing anything. Although when I touch it, it switches to it. That's interesting, because when I touch it, but it's not going up or down. You see it's staying at -29. Normally these controls, when they go bad, if you just wiggle them a bit, there, it just went. So it's going to be the switch. See, when I turned it, it's just moving a bit. It's the switch itself. Yeah, so we're going to have to pull this apart and clean that switch. Screws out, top comes off. Encoder is down here on this front circuit board, so I got to pull the front face off of it as well to get to the board itself. So I'll remove some screws that hold the front panel on. I should be able to get to it from here. Now again, nothing else has been complained about. It says the receiver works fine, so I haven't even bothered to hook it up to test it. We're going to just go right into that front panel, if I can get to it, and try to get some cleaner into that switch. Starting to warm up here. That's why the AC is running in the shop. It's only like the second time I've had to use it, but hey, we're just into June. The hot months are still to come. So I'm sure you'll hear that thing running throughout the summer as we get further into the summer here. Front panel just lifts off. Put that out of the way for safekeeping. Now I got to get to the control itself. The knob just pulls off like that. Yeah. I don't know if I can get into this control from here, or whether I actually have to take the control right off. That just pops out. I may be able to lift this board out. It's on its own little separate circuit board, so I may be able to pop this board out so I can get it right into the control. Let's see. There's one little edge connector here that connects to it. That's this one here. There's one screw here, and then I think the control is what holds it in place. So if I remove this screw, which goes through from this side, and then remove the nut from the other side, I should be able to pull that whole entire little circuit board out. That's the idea. Anyway, then I can actually get into the control and maybe get some cleaner into it. This control is actually easier to get to on this than I thought it was going to be. I figured this was going to be like a typical Yamaha, a real pain in the ass to work on. And Yamaha are not my favorite machines. They never have been, because they were one of the first to go to a machine that literally did not want to be repaired. That's the best way I can describe Yamaha. Equipment that does not want to be repaired. When you have to start taking the whole chassis apart to get to the outputs. There was no hatch on them or anything. So this is the control here. I'm going to unplug this from the set. I'm going to remove the control and see if we can get into it to clean it and open the control right up. So let me warm up my soldering iron. We'll remove the control from the board and that way I should be able to pop it apart so I can get some cleaner right into the contacts, because that's really the best way to do these. As this unit used lead-free solder, the first thing I did was I put a liberal amount of regular leaded solder onto the contacts for the control I need to remove. It just makes using the solder sucker work a little easier, because they don't have to heat the solder up quite as hot. It didn't balance very well. You try to heat them up and get your solder desolder tool on here at the same time and hit the button. That sometimes takes a bit of coordination. And that switch just comes off just like that. Alright, now I'm going to open the switch up, and I should be able to just pop these little tabs open here with my slotted screwdriver, and the switch should fall apart. Now this is just a rotary encoder, is all this is. You'll see here there's some contacts down here. There's 3 little contacts right there, and then they just touch up against a very dirty switch. The switch itself is, well, you can see that that's pretty black. So we're going to polish those contacts up. Grab my little Q-tip that I've got here somewhere. I know I just got one. What do I do with it? There it is. We'll get some contact cleaner, some neutral, and we'll just wet the Q-tip and wipe the contacts with it. I guess I could use deoxit on this too. Yeah, why not? I'll just use deoxit. I've got the D100 cleaner. This stuff works pretty good when you can actually wipe the contacts with it. Alright, so let's watch how this comes clean. You think it was dirty? All oxidated? And this is basically what you've got to do to clean these switches. I mean, some people will spray cleaner in. They'll spray cleaner down through here. And yes, you might get some cleaner that would actually migrate into here, but it's mostly going to just get into the high viscosity silicone oil, which gives this thing some resistance and make it turn a lot smoother, but not really do much for cleaning. You actually have to get it into the switch, and that's why I take these switches apart. The same with these contacts down here. Right, these contacts here have to be cleaned as well. So I'll put some cleaner on there, and we'll wipe these contacts, and then I'm going to put a cleaning coating on and just throw it back together. You can see what came off those. Look at that, right? That's how dirty these switches were. This stuff actually works pretty good, this deoxit stuff. It's expensive, but it's good. And if the company hadn't been such pricks last year, or I guess it was more than a year ago, it was like probably 3 years ago now, but if they hadn't been such pricks and allowed a troll, and I'm pretty sure I know who it was. I'm pretty sure it's the guy in Florida that sends messages to Google every time I post, and his name is John, and I make fun of his last name and called him "Send me a check," and you can figure out who it was from that. But the guy's a goofball, and I'm pretty sure he's the one that he probably went on to, when the contest was running, used a VPN and logged in and made a whole bunch of votes for my channel, and then using different IP addresses through a VPN, and then contacted them and said, oh, there's cheating going on here, and they opened an investigation and disqualified myself and one of the other guys, saying that we had somehow violated their terms of the contest, and we're trying to figure out how did we violate the terms of the contest, because none of us were involved in anything on the contest. I wasn't even, I mean, like when I won it the first time, I didn't even know I'd won until they told me, because I really wasn't paying attention to what was going on. And somehow, anyway, we won't go down that road, but I got disqualified and the other guy got disqualified because they said that they did an audit and somebody was using VPN to log in and vote multiple times the same day, which was in violation, but they couldn't tell me where it was coming from or anything, just saying that it was coming from an address that was using a VPN, and that was against their terms of service. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the fellow that sends me all the complaints and cries to everybody but Santa Claus, he doesn't just do it to me, he does it to EV Blog, he does it to Fran Lab, he does it to, I think, Linus Tech as well. I've been talking to some of the other guys, some of the other channel people. We all know his name. Everyone has the same complaint about this character. Anyway, I haven't been really promoting Deoxit, even though it's a great cleaner. I haven't really been doing much promotion for them, just because that left a bad taste in my mouth, because I was in first place for the at the point where they shut everything down. Okay, I'll pop the switch back in and solder it back in, and I can plug it back in and we can test it before I put it all back together to verify that it is in fact working. And then now you guys don't know how to clean one of these switches. It's really not too bad. This is I like these type of jobs. Jobs you can actually make some money doing, and know that the problem is going to be resolved, because you can see the fault. Unlike some faults that don't act up when you've got them, like intermittent problems. Okay, plug this back in and proceed to test. Did I fix it? Let's find out. Main on. I believe it's going up. Max. And it's going down to minimum. Mute. You see it on screen? I'm sure you can see it. I can see it. It's working. Let me throw it together. Just like before, control slides in there quite nice. Actually, I like this. As I mentioned before, I like this. This is a nice, easy one to work on. Which is to say, not normal for a Yamaha. Yamaha amplifiers were always a pain in the ass to work on. Well, they still are. This one would be if you needed to do something down there. You know what I mean? There's no hatch on the bottom to remove, and really to get to anything, you're ripping the whole thing up. Like all AV receivers. I mean, it's not just Yamaha; they're all like this. But it's just, yeah, they're a pain. If it was something buried down there, I'd be telling the guy to go buy a new one, because this thing doesn't even have any HDMI. This is just a multi-channel, but it's got AV inputs on it, and it's got I think it's got S video, and it might even have component, but it does not have HDMI. So it's pretty old. But for a sound system, the amplifiers were great. They had good sound. I always have liked the Yamaha natural sound amplifiers. I think they sound pretty good. And no, oiling my chair will not stop it from squeaking. I need to buy a new one. It's broken. It's the metal plate that the chair sits on top of the cylinder, right? The airlift cylinder. It's the weld is broken. Either that, or I got to get someone with a welder to weld it. That would work too, welding it. But the weld broke on it. That's what happened. It was originally welded at the factory, and it broke. So basically, when I'm sitting on this chair, I have to be precariously balanced, because if I lean one way or the other, the top of the chair, well, I'll show you what the top of the chair does. This is good quality. This is great quality. This chair is 6 months old. Look at this. Yeah, that's why it squeaks every time I move. It squeaks, squeak, 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 squeak. And no, you can't oil it. It needs to be welded, and I don't have a welder, so you know, it's gonna have to stay like that. Maybe I'll go buy a new one and wait 2 weeks and then go back with the broken piece and say, hey, this thing broke after 2 weeks. I want my money back. There's people that would actually do that, by the way. And I know that for a fact because my former business partner that was doing video production with me, he used to do that all the time. And what is really hilarious about that was he was a retired detective. And he would do that all the time. Something broke past warranty, he would go out and he would buy the same model and then go back and take the broken one back. That's provided he could get the same model, but he would go and buy the same unit that he had, and then he would return the one that was broken and tell them it didn't work. He used to do that at Home Depot with tools all the time. You know, buy a drill. His drill would pack it in, you know, after, you know, a year or something, right? And if the same model was available, usually it was batteries, you know, buy himself a battery-powered drill, and the battery stopped accepting a charge. So he'd go buy another one and then take it back, put the bad battery in it and take it back and tell them it didn't hold a charge, and they would give him his money back. And this guy was a retired Vancouver police detective. And I'd be like, you got some balls on you for doing that crap. Of course, I was still working at the shop at the time, right, back then, so we would keep an eye out for people pulling that crap, and people would do it. You'd be surprised at how often people would try that. People would get to the point where, and I'm not kidding, they would swap the cabinet for the serial number. Like, they'd have a problem with a TV or something and they didn't want it repaired, they wanted a new one, and of course we didn't offer people new ones. So they would buy another one and swap the back and put the old one, put the new back on the old unit, and then come back and say, oh, it doesn't fit, or I don't like it, I'm not happy. It wasn't necessarily something that they bought from us. They may have had it from somewhere else, right? But they would come in and buy a unit and take it home, and because the guys at the shop, they would give people a chance to say, oh, if it doesn't fit, you know, if it's too big or too small, you know, as long as you haven't used it, bring it back. And they'd take it home and swap the back to it and bring it back, and then try to get their money back. Of course, we'd find out when we opened the thing up and found that the serial number on the inside of the chassis didn't match what was on the back. But that usually didn't happen, though. Usually someone swapped it, and you know, and it got sold again to somebody else. And then it came in because it had a fault. See, it wasn't like someone was doing this because it didn't have a problem. Somebody bought a TV, say, and maybe had a bad picture tube. This was back in the picture tube days. And the picture would say flashing blue or flashing green or flashing red intermittent, and they didn't want it repaired. They'd buy a new set and then swap the back to it and bring the one back that wasn't working properly and say, oh, it's got, you know, I'm not happy with it, or it's too big or it's too small or whatever. Get their money back, and that set would get sold to someone else. And of course the set had a problem, and then it would come back, and that's when we'd figure it out. We'd pull the back off the set and, oh, how come the serial number is not the same? Why is the serial number on the chassis different than what's on the back? And but that type of crap goes on. Anyone in retail knows about that one. Okay. Oh, we used to have a saying for those customers, by the way. We had a saying for all customers, and that was, Buyers are liars. In other words, don't believe a bloody word that anybody says. If someone comes in and says, I can buy that piece of equipment at Crazy or Future Shop or wherever, or A&B Sound, giving you names of 3 shops that are long gone, I can buy that for this amount of money, I want you to match the price. Be like, no, you can't. You can't buy it for that, because we knew what the competition was selling stuff for. You couldn't pull that wool over our eyes that easy. Nobody in the business was that gullible. But the saying was, buyers are liars, because they were all so full of it their eyes were brown. Does that answer your question? And butter smooth volume. Fixed. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.